Welcome to the first edition of Building Thinking Classrooms. So, welcome in. I started over on TikTok and I was kind of blown away with all the questions, and TikTok is kind of short and I'm long-winded and people were needing more explanation, so hence the reason for the channel. So make sure you subscribe. I'm going to be adding content. I'm going to try to get you ready as I can for the fall. I know that it's coming up. Everybody's starting to think about it, even though we don't want to think about it. So I know that you're getting to that point. So last year I attended a workshop about building thinking classrooms. But the problem was I teach reading and they only have a book for math. So if you don't teach the math subject and you see something else, then you're kind of like left out and you have to kind of figure it out on your own. And that's kind of what I did. So if you do teach math, hey, you're in luck. Go up to the link in my bio, go to my Amazon storefront, and it's going to take you directly to the Building Thinking Classrooms book if you teach math. And even if you don't teach math, I still got the book because there's so many tools in it and you really do need it to wrap your brain around, even though you're not going to be using the math tasks, if that makes sense. So you can still go get the book and do that so you can kind of figure out what we're talking about here. So Building Thinking Classrooms is nothing more than getting the kids out of their seats and going up to a vertical space, and I have some whiteboards behind me, and I'm going to show you, and I'm going to give you a tour of my classroom and of my boards. So just for reference, my largest class is 18. Bless y'all's heart if you have over 18. And when we talk about groups, and I'm going to explain how I did my groups and kind of give you the reason behind it. So a building thinking classroom is getting kids up out of their seat, collaborating with their peers, and writing on a whiteboard. And then you ask, why a whiteboard? So why can't we put it on paper? And so the purpose behind a whiteboard is so they can erase it and it's not permanent. So when we are at the boards with tasks, and I'm going to show you everything in depth, when we're at the board doing our tasks, this group behind me is group number 2. So group number 2, I'm going to say that I am monitoring, and I love this. So I'm a Texas teacher, so we are graded on T-tests for our appraisals. And with T-tests, it needs to be learner-centered, and you need to be the facilitator, but all students need to be engaged, and this is the perfect thing. This is what I did on my T-test last year, and I got distinguished. I'm a distinguished master teacher. I've been distinguished for a few years, but I think this was the easiest appraisal because it's the easiest to implement all of the categories if you're looking for a distinguished part in the T-test, which I am. And so with the whiteboards, when they go to the whiteboards, if group 2, so I'm just the facilitator and I'm walking around and looking and making sure all students are engaged and asking questions, and I see group 2 is wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send group 2 over to say group 4, and I'm going to say, hey, group 2, can you go check out what group 4 is? So I've got somebody over there that's going to explain the thinking, because I assign jobs. You don't have to assign jobs. It even says don't assign them in the book, but I had to, and I'll explain why I had to in a minute. But I have someone over there, and that kid is going to tell the group, this is what we wrote, and this is why we wrote it. Because if kids can teach kids, then they've got it. And so I have a presenter over there, and they're going to tell why they chose that answer, what it is, and what their thinking was. And so then group 2 is going to come back to me and I'm going to ask them questions about it. So, what did group 4 say? What do you think about what group 4 said? And I'm going to get them to talk to me, and then I'm going to tell them go erase. It's not permanent. We've all been in classes because I've taught a long time. I've taught K4 all the way up to 8th grade, and where the kids, especially younger kids, they erase until they get a hole in the paper. And so these whiteboards, this allows the kids to make mistakes, and which is what we want them to do. So when I have the groups, so I do 6 groups of 3. I do think that it says either 3 or 4 in the book. 3 works best for me because I have 3 in a group, and they each have jobs. So I have a writer, one that's going to write, and then I have a presenter, the one that will present ideas if I need them presenting ideas, and then I have a moderator, and a moderator is breaking down the tasks that I have for them. So the premise is, though, and so each group will get a different color, the writer. So when I told you that we have a writer, the writer is not recording their thoughts. They're recording the thoughts of the other 2 group members. All the writer can do is write. Because if you have the writer and all they do is write and think, what are the other two going to do in the group? It's not collaborating and it's not engaging. So even though they're going to fight it, especially older kids, and I teach 8th grade, they're going to fight it in the beginning because the writer just wants to write and think and just get it down and get it done. And that's not the point of the assignment. So with the writer, what I do is, if the writer, even though they may have been assigned the writer part at the beginning of class, because you change groups daily with the Building Thinking Classrooms, and I'm going to talk about how I change groups daily, so really literally subscribe, because I'm going to be going through every single step with you. I'm just giving you the basis today of a Building Thinking Classroom so you can start to wrap your brain around it. So if the writer has a thought that they want to write, they have to hand the marker off to one of the other group members, and one of the other group members will write the writer's thoughts, the one that moved away from the marker. So the one using the marker is not the one doing the thinking. You have to get all three engaged, or four, depending on how many you have in a group. So when they go to the boards, this is what I have up here, and this is where I put their tasks. So I put it in a clear sleeve. They can write on it. They can do what they need to do on it. They can read it, but it would have the task in. And so subscribe, because I'm going to be giving you tasks and how I started. The Building Thinking Classroom says to start with non-curricular tasks. I don't have time for that. I am a 4-day-a-week, school, and we have to jump in. So I picked really simple tasks to start with. So these are where we would store the tasks at. Now, I'm going to take you on a tour of my classroom, and I'm going to show you my boards so you can kind of get a look to see, and you can start thinking about how you can implement this come the fall, because I really do feel like this really elevated their writing. And if you follow me, I'm going to show you how I elevated their writing. I had a 93% pass rate. Over 70% of my kids got 5s and above, and I really contributed, and that's with SPED, resource, and even those that don't speak English. So I really do feel like that this was a game changer in the classroom. So let's take a tour on the room so I can kind of explain that. All right, so this would be my group 1. And so you can go to my storefront, go to the link in my storefront. This is actual whiteboard paper. It came in a roll. I put it on here because I don't have whiteboards. I didn't have enough whiteboard space. I did hang a hook, and it will have a sleeve protector by the beginning of the year, so I can put tasks. But this is what they wrote on. As you can see, it lasted all year. So check my storefront for this exact whiteboard that I have that worked well, that stuck really well. It's real durable. So check that. So that was group 1. Then I had right here, and this was group 2, and the number fell off, and I'm going to put it back. This was group 3, and so this started out as a regular bulletin board. This is also in my storefront. This is better than bulletin board paper. It's that thick paper that you can actually write on. So the kids wrote on this all year long. I do have, because it comes in a big, huge roll, I do have some more, but I think it held up really well, and it was one of their favorite boards. I started out with the all burlap, and then I thought, well, it needed to be white, but really, honestly, the burlap, better than bulletin board paper, worked just as well as the white. If you don't want to do white, I just tried to do white because, it's supposed to be a whiteboard, and they're white. But anyway, so this is group 3, and then I have group 4 over here. And so this was a board. This was part of my whiteboard that I have behind my desk. I needed the other things for assignments, and so I only could fit one group here. So this would be group 4, which is still plenty of space. And then we go over here, and my husband built this. So he built the frame, and then we went and bought shower board at like Home Depot or Lowe's. And so I made it dual-sided. And then I hung this up. This would be group 5. And then on the back side, it is group 6. And so it's the same thing. But it's just shower board at Lowe's or Home Depot. And so you definitely need whiteboard space. All right, so I'm going to leave you some things to think about if you're interested in doing the Building Thinking Classroom. I'm telling you, all the students will be engaged. They will absolutely love it. So when I tried it, I asked my kids after we tried the first couple of times, and I'm telling you, the first couple of times it was a hot mess. You know, you're trying to go over procedures and how you actually did it. And I'm going to go over how I started them out on building thinking classrooms. But after a couple of tasks, I asked the kids, they're 8th grade. I'm like, so what do you think? And they always wanted to do this. And so we would go to the boards with certain tasks, and I'm going to show you how I broke those tasks down, and especially trying to get them started. But here's some things to think about. So think about your room. Think about how many kids I know we haven't got our class list yet. Like, I can't tell you how many I'm going to have for sure. I just know last year my biggest class was 18. So think about how many kids you normally have, how many groups you would have to have. And if you can have smaller groups, the better. Like, the less distraction. And that's why I tried 4 and it didn't work with 4, and I really needed 3, because then I always invariably had one student that was not participating and being engaged. And so this is really to get all learners engaged. So I saw a huge jump in my low learners, 1, because they were listening to the higher learners, and 2, they got to see what everybody else was doing. So after they finish a task, I have them, they call it notes to your forgetful self, where you consolidate all the thoughts. And so we're going to talk about that too, because I think that's important. At the end of your lesson, whether it be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or however long the task was at the board, it could be 50 minutes, however long you want it to be. Some days, you know, it might have only been 5 or 10 minutes at the board. Some days it might have been all day at the board. It just depends on, you know, your purpose and what you're trying to teach that day. So it just varies. And I don't do building thinking classrooms every single day. Like I said, I'm a 4-day-a-week school, and so I may do it twice a week. I may do it once a week. It just all depended on what we were doing, but the kids always begged for it. The low learners learned because they could go around and see what everybody else was writing. And at first, all my low learners, they really just wanted to write and not think, but they began to gain confidence in themselves and their answers. So that's where we're at with building thinking classroom. This is just something to wrap your brain around. It really is to engage all learners and to get them out of their seats no matter what subject you teach. We're going to talk about tasks and how you can get that done. So if you're wanting to continue to learn in building thinking classrooms, I'm also going to give other teacher tips and things I've learned over the years. So make sure you've subscribed to my channel, and you can get some notifications when I post new content. I'm going to be trying to add new content daily to help you get ready for the fall. If you have any things that you want me to talk about, please put it in the comments so I know what I need to create for content for you, and that you would like to see how I taught, you know, this, that, and the other. Let me know. How did I start my day? Whatever your questions are, I've got them all. How you teach main idea, how you teach inference, all the things on the boards. If that's something that you're wanting to do, I'm willing to create the content to help you out. So make sure you remember, I'm just a teacher, but I'm trying to help you out. It really is my passion to help teachers. And so that's why I'm doing this. But if you have any questions, reach out and let me know.